Welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative David Millard of the 109th District. We're highlighting agriculture at the Bloomsburg Fair and all that agriculture means all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. One of our first guests today will be Jeff Gigger from the Livestock Department. And Jeff is going to talk to us about his efforts in trying to restore after last September's flooding. And as you look at some of the video that you'll be seeing in this edition of this program, I want you to focus on all of the restoration efforts that were taken with regards to our buildings after the flood and all the improvements that have been made. Something that we, the Board of Directors at the Bloomsburg Fair, are extremely proud of. With me is another of the 13 directors on the Bloomsburg Fair Board, Jeff Gigger, Superintendent of Livestock. Jeff, welcome to Legislative Report. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.
Now, we know that last year we didn't have a fair. For the first time in 157 years, the Bloomsburg Fair was canceled because of Tropical Storm Lee. And you handling livestock, of course, all the animals and everything that, all the dynamics involved with that, certainly had to do a lot of phone calling last year to cancel people and events and all of those types of things that had to be dealt with. But one thing that you did last year, one thing that you did do was that you salvaged a program and you made possible what was termed the Bloomsburg Mini Fair. And certainly a lot of 4-H and FFA programs that are dependent on the agricultural fairs in Pennsylvania to complete their programs and go on with their programs. Certainly appreciated that. And we as a board, we can't thank enough our volunteers that showed up by the hundreds in the course of a year to bring the fair back so we could have one this year. But immediately after the flood last year, those volunteers that gave you great assistance in preparing your program. And I'd like you to share some of the dynamics of that with us today. What you did, what it meant to 4-H, FFA, and agriculture.
Yes, we are in a precarious position, but towards the very beginning after the flood, we had a lot of 4-H volunteers, 4-H leaders, 4-H parents. It is a tight-knit group. We had come together with skid loaders and shovels and power sprayers, and we got it done. It was a major effort. After a week long of work, we made pretty good progress. We were impressed, and we started thinking maybe we could give these kids a chance to actually sell their animal this year, so they could benefit from their year-long work with the animal.
Sure.
Because they go then in the fall and spring, they get their animals for like this year's fair, for the following year's fair. So it was a major effort on a lot of people, but we made it happen, and the fair board was behind us once we were able to get the parking, and we kind of deemed it a mini fair. And the show turned out great. We were a little concerned with how many people might show up for the sale and so on to help support the kids at the livestock sale during the auction. But it all worked out, and we had good shows. We actually even salvaged some of the ribbons. They were actually stacked up above our ceiling on our office roof. I said, it'll never get up this high, which was 10, 11 feet in our barn. The water had reached that part, and the lower boxes of ribbons, we had ordered some of those to replace those, but the rest up above there, we were able to salvage ribbons, and the shows turned out well. We did a 2.5-day show. We had the judges come as they were going to judge the animals, and it worked out nice.
Well, I think it's important to again highlight the fact that you salvaged a program in spite of all the dynamics of the terrible flooding that was incurred, not just here at the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds, but throughout so many of our communities all along the Susquehanna River last year. But you worked very hard to salvage a 4-H and FFA program, and that allowed those participants to complete their projects and just go on to farm show competition and all of the other dynamics involved in that. Now, handling so many animals that you do, we have a tremendous working relationship with the Department of Agriculture. And one of the dynamics that you face handling animals is the documentation that has to follow the animal or be with the animal. And I'd like if you would tell us a little bit about what's involved there.
Sure. Every year down in January, we go to the convention down in Hershey, and they go over, Ron Miller and state officials, they go over the health rules from that year for that fair year. So a lot of times they tweak things and change things, and I just got to go over it with my checkers and my livestock staff. And I have teams of people that go around and check in animals, and we just have to make sure their health charts are up to par. That's within 60 days of the fair. And then we also have state requirements require what they call a vet relationship form. It doesn't necessarily have to be filled out by the vet, but they have to fill it, and we have to keep that on record in our office. But and then also when they come in, we visually check the animal, our staff, and we have a on-site veterinarian, Patty Kitchen, that helps us with a lot of, sometimes the question, it goes out beyond our staff. She might have to check an animal for.
So there's an awful lot of documentation behind the scenes from what you see at the fair. Now, how many animals have you, if you tell us the dynamics between the numbers and the variety?
Yes, I mean, we have 4-H horses, we have hogs, we have dairy cows, we have 2 types of market goats. We have a market goat, we have a breeding goat, and they're for meat. We have dairy goats. It's one of the largest agricultural fairs, agricultural livestock on the East Coast. This year we had nearly 1,300 animals.
Wow.
So those all have to have health papers. They all have to show up on a health form, and it is a lot of work. Our first 2 days we are super busy answering questions. Sometimes people forget their forms. We'll have to have them faxed in so we see it to make sure, and they have to fill out vet relationship forms. But things, it's a busy time, but it's all, once Sunday comes, everybody's settled in their pens, and we got a visit yesterday from the state vet department, the state vets.
For the Department of Ag.
Sure.
Yep.
They came in and visited us. They wanted to make sure our posters were up, which are our posters to make people aware of. We have wash stations at each end of the barns just to make people aware.
Yep.
But
and I think that it's important to, in the course of all of the paperwork that you have to have, and all of the extra steps that you take dealing with the animals, is the fact that all of us are dependent on the great care and the integrity of the paperwork and the animal itself. That every day we all eat vegetables, we all have something in grain, we all have something on our dinner table that involves livestock of some sort. And we certainly want to make sure that nothing in the food chain is interrupted as far as being sub-quality. And that's exactly what you're doing with your paperwork.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Now, how many employees do you have to help you with that monumental task to make sure that everything is in order?
We actually have about 26 employees. They're all not full-time throughout the week, but everybody knows their jobs from year to year, so that way they don't have to go re-over, their duties. But with 26 people, we have a full-time milk house. We're milking, 150 cows a day. So that's part of the education, and that they can go down to the marketing parlor between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock and see how a cow is milked.
So there's a milking parlor right here in the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds that is active, and they're milking 150 head every day. That's amazing. Now, what happens with the milk, the product that's achieved?
It goes right into the industry.
Wonderful.
Don Bowman's come with their milk trucks and late in the evenings every other day, and they get the milk and it goes for the processing.
So
as normal, coming from a normal farm.
Wow, it's just at a different satellite facility for the week. And at the Bloomsburg Fair, of course, we're an 9-day fair when you count the preview day being a paid admission day on Friday. When do the animals come in? How long does it take you to set up the exhibits that anybody walking through your area would see?
Oh, we start weeks before the fair, if not months before, with our maintenance department here on the grounds. as well as our staff, you know. Pen assignments, we got to figure out rams and ewes, the sheep, they have to be in separate pens. And it's a whole array trying to get everybody fit in, and every year it varies a little bit on who's coming, who's not, but for the most part we know where everybody likes to be, and everybody gets into a routine a little bit.
Good. And are there any situations with the variety of animals that you have to separate them building to building because they may not be harmonious together?
Yes, sometimes we do have to put up plywood in between or temporary panels to split the pens up if we have to. Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
dynamics
Oh, yeah.
behind the scenes
Oh, yeah.
that when John Q. Public comes in to take a look at it, that they may not realize that goes on.
Yep.
Now, I know that one of the highlights for you during the week is the hoedown.
Yes.
And could you explain to us what the hoedown is and who you expect to be in attendance at that?
Yes. Tonight, actually Wednesday, we're going to have our 25th year. We're doing this hoedown. What it's for is we get sponsors: Hatfield Sausage, Sunset Ice Cream, Giant Foods. There's 5 or 6 people that donate their products, but we basically have a banquet for the exhibitors, the farmers that put on the show, and that's the night we give out 4-H scholarships. The Secretary of Ag, George Craig, is supposed to be here tonight. She's going to give out a very special award to one of the livestock employees who's been working for many years. It's a night that everyone gathers, has a great time. We have some music playing. Instead of going out somewhere at a pricey restaurant, we have a good time in the arena where everybody can afford it. And we just, you know, it's for the exhibitors.
And of course, the Secretary Greg, he'll be presenting, is it the Ambassador
Yes,
Award?
it is. Yes.
And can you tell us who that recipient will be? This isn't going to be
Yes.
broadcast until
Yes.
way after.
Yes, Dave Kottner. Dave Kottner has been a long-time employee and even now, lately, maintenance worker. But he's put a lot of time and effort, and he's just a great guy, and he's one of our key helpers to get things done in the livestock for many, many years.
Well, and we talk about the dedication of our employees, the nucleus that it creates family-wise with participating at the fair and working for us as directors year after year in our departments. Now, the recipient of this Ambassador Award, how many years has he been working at the fair?
Yes, we were trying to put an exact number to that. It was awful hard, but it was right around 55 years. If that's
55
hard,
years.
yes. Yes.
Now, isn't that amazing?
It is.
And again, highlighting the fact that we have very dedicated employees that just stay with us through good times, bad times, obviously with flooding. And the recipient of this year's Ambassador Award was one of the people who was right here after the flood last year, knee-deep in mud, and helping to get ready for not only the mini fair, but continued that effort to make sure that this 157th, repeat 157th, second year for the 157th actually is going to take place.
Yes, yes, yep. And like we try and stress, not only is this fair, you know, our main key too is to really educate the people, you know, in the livestock end and ag end. You know, this is a key place where we can educate people. We have barn tours twice a day, you know, to educate. We do go through all the barns. It usually takes about 40 minutes, and it's a great place to learn and teach kids about animals.
Well, we talked about the importance of agriculture and ensuring that there's no interruption in the integrity of the food chain. And really, we don't have to go any further than the colony collapse disorder of several years ago. There's been concerns with the swine flu, and I mean, the list goes on for past events. But is there anything that's on the radar screen this year? And if there is, what steps did you take concerning that and the interface with the public?
Yes, the swine virus was, you know, we were talking with the state before the fairs, and they were keeping comprised of New York and Allentown Fair also, and they were, you know, trying to give us some suggestions with the posters and so on. It wasn't near as serious as what some of the papers and so on would lead you to believe. But we took precautions by checking the animal over visually and checking to make sure as far as cold symptoms just like you or I would contact somebody on the grounds.
Yeah.
And everything went real smooth, and they knew we were looking. I had called beforehand to some of the other bigger breeders and said just leave any questionable animals.
Well, and I think
not-
that the point that I'm trying to highlight here with you is the fact that we have a State Department of Agriculture. We are very active with that Department of Agriculture, most certainly you are, and the fact that with over 100 fairs in Pennsylvania, that there is communication back and forth. The Department of Ag communicates any concern at any fair, in any point in this Commonwealth, to all of the other fairs that, from the point of a concern that haven't yet had an event, what to be on the lookout for.
Yes.
And you mentioned the posters that are displayed throughout your building, and the importance of people after they pet an animal, if they do, the importance of washing their hands.
Yes.
So that they're not going to transfer anything that quite possibly could be transferred if there's anything out there.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what the washing stations are?
Yeah, they're a sanitizing system where you rub your hands underneath this soap sanitizer. And in most cases, most people don't pet the animals. It's really not a petting zoo.
Right.
In fact, our hog barns, you can't even get your finger in there if you wanted to. You can't. It's two different screens. Some of the other dairy goats and so on, people pet them a little bit. They're fine. But there's wash stations, and they should use them if they would like.
But they're available if they've
Yes,
had
absolutely.
contact with an animal
Yep.
to
Oh, yes.
not leave there and go get a hot sausage somewhere without cleaning their hands.
Right.
We want to
Yes.
certainly make sure that we highlight
Exactly.
the fact that all of those things are available, and
Yep.
all with the integrity of protecting the public from anything else that they're going to
Exactly.
be doing on the fairgrounds.
Yep.
Well, I certainly want to thank you not only for your efforts last year on behalf of the 4-H and FFA for putting something together that allowed continuity for their program, but all of what you do with livestock,
thank
and
you.
certainly the mountain of paperwork and everything that you have to deal with, and continuing the great efforts of the reputation that livestock is certainly a part of the history and the reputation of the Bloomsburg Fair. So again, thank you for being on Legislative Report.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Did you know that the chamber of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives contains a painting depicting the 24 hours of the day? Located in the center of the ceiling, the mural titled The Hours was created by artist Edwin Austin Abbey. This wonderful masterpiece charts the setting of the sun, moon, and the many stars that grace the heavens. 24 maidens, who each represent an hour of the day, begin each day in light and gladness and ends in solemn drapery carried on still shoulders. Now you know.
I'm here with the Superintendent of Horticulture, Scott Edwards. Scott, welcome to the Legislative Report program.
Great.
And of
Thank
course,
you very much.
we're highlighting the Bloomsburg Fair this week. We're going to be talking about agriculture and livestock, and here we are in Horticulture Building talking to you about all the entries here.
Great.
Now, I understand that Pennsylvania, and specifically this area in central Pennsylvania, which is in the T of Pennsylvania, has great significance in the flower industry when it comes to mums. Would you like to explain to us what the significance there is?
Well, back years ago, my father was actually a grower and grew chrysanthemums, along with about another 7 other growers. So they used to always joke that the name Bloomsburg was because of all the blooms came out of Bloomsburg, which we know isn't correct, but that's what they used to always refer to. And over the years, there were the Streeters and the Dillons and the Folks and the Edwardses and everything that used to grow all the flowers, the Knauses. So it was a major part of Bloomsburg was the flower growing.
And I know that last year you were chomping at the bit to get going with the exhibits and everything. Of course, the fair was canceled for the first time in history last year because of the flood in September. But this year, your first time being a director with active exhibits and everything, what would you say are the highlights for you so far as entries?
Well, we had about 1,700 entries this year into the Horticulture Hall. Dahlias being our #1 entry.
Wow.
When you talk about my first year as a director, the members have come up to me many times and said, you'll go down in history as the first director to ever have been elected and have 2 years with only one fair. So it's pretty interesting. But walking through here, you would see things from African violets to bonsai to dahlias and any other garden flower, along with interior foliage plants.
Well, and you talked about the number of individual entries.
Correct.
And I believe that you've got some groups and organizations that enter as well. Is that correct?
We do. We actually have 3 nurseries that have come in this year. We have Merrill's Nursery out of Danville, Brookside out of Danville, and Stony Acres out of Benton, which received the Director's Grand Award that was presented for an outstanding display. And they were in, along with the garden clubs. I mean, we have a great deal of garden club participation. We have 8 garden clubs that have participated, and we have a waiting list of 2 more that would like to come on board with us if someone drops out. And they come in on a Friday and Saturday and set up everything, and then on Wednesday they come in and refurbish everything, and it looks beautiful through the entire week.
Well, we know that the strength of our fair and all the other fairs in Pennsylvania, over 100 of them, is the number of entries that come in by various individuals or clubs. And of course, everybody who enters, joyfully comes back to see whether they received a first, second, or third place ribbon.
They do.
Now, with that in mind, are the garden clubs, are the landscapers, are they in competition with each other? Are premiums paid to those groups, or?
The nurseries that have come in are local nurseries, and they have come in solely for advertising.
Ah.
They are judged, and they do have an award given to them for the best outstanding display that they put on. But they do not pay to come in, and nor do we pay them for any kind of award. However, the garden clubs do get paid a premium just for entering 4 categories. And if they enter the 6 categories, which includes the door decoration and the niche, they are compensated for that also. So they do tell me that they have spent almost every penny that we give them just to make their displays look fabulous, and they do look fabulous. I don't whether anybody's had a chance to see them or whether we'll go around and look at them, but they are magnificent this year.
So they're pretty much doing it out of a pride of presentation and.
Oh, and they're competitive too.
Really?
But yeah, you should hear them. Yeah, they get pretty competitive.
Really trying. Now, how long does it take you to set this up?
Well, basically, we start a year in advance with where we're going to put things, etc., and then. The big push is from about 6 o'clock at night on Friday night until about 8 o'clock at night. We have people standing in line bringing their fresh flowers because they really don't want to compare, somebody to walk by and see them. So they bring them in, and my staff was here till 1:15 placing them in the different areas, because of course we would have one area that would have African violets, and then somebody else would bring in another 5 African violets after it's placed, so it has to be moved one way or the other.
So part of the strength of your program here, again, number of entrants, and there's always room for one more.
Oh, there's always room for one more, and if we'll even go ahead and move them if we have to put another one in. But this year in Pennsylvania must have been one of the best growing seasons we've ever had, because the color, the size, and the beauty of the blossoms are incredible this year.
And I understand that the other evening you had a very special visitor in your building.
We did. We actually had the governor, and in here we presented him with a dozen of yellow roses. Of course, yellow and blue being Pennsylvania colors, we felt yellow was appropriate. And we also had the Secretary of Agriculture in.
Wonderful.
So it was great to see them come in and see. The governor even put money in the fountain for the flood victims, which was tremendous. Yep, it was great.
And I know that he was extremely impressed with what he saw in here. And of course, the compliments of the first display that you've done being so wonderful and everything. It's got to be a warm feeling to you to know that it's so widely accepted and appreciated, and encouragement for the future.
It was great, and my staff was overly thrilled when they saw in the paper, the Press Enterprise, that out of the top 10 things to do at the fair, the number 7 thing was actually coming to Horticulture Hall to see the building.
Wow, that's
so
wonderful.
that made us all feel really, really good.
And I guess, one of the remaining questions I have is, how do you keep it looking so fresh?
It's pretty incredible. They keep changing the water almost every day. If you go by, you'll notice that all the water is really clear and fresh. They remove anything that's dead, any plant that's maybe got a broken stem or petal or whatever, they take it off, and that's their job. Each person is scheduled into a different section every day. So if one misses it the day before, the other one can get it. So, and they love what they do. That's the most important thing. My staff loves what they do, and they keep wanting to come back. I mean, this is the same staff that Mr. Streeter's had in the 38 years he's been here, and they call me and say, please, can I come back? And I've hired every one of them, except for a few that retired.
I think that each of us as directors could make that comment, that we have a very dedicated staff, and it really goes beyond that. As we highlight agriculture and tourism in Pennsylvania, we also, in the course of having our employees work for us year after year, it's almost like a family.
It is. You and I got together with our staffs this year and had that wonderful picnic to introduce them to the new buildings. I mean, your building was destroyed just like my building was destroyed. You and I would be speaking underwater right now back on the 9th of September. So it's a major change here.
Well, it is, and you mentioned the flooding, and I think one of the things that's worth mentioning is that in the midst of all of that, the Fair Board, of which you and I are 2 of 13 directors, took the initiative, took the stand that we were going to come back stronger than ever and do a presentation that the public, as well as us, could be very proud of, something that would represent all the good in Pennsylvania and certainly highlight exactly those things that we want to, which is agriculture and tourism.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, even the mums that you see behind us here were actually grown right here in Pennsylvania. So were the kale. Everything was grown in Danville and brought up and put in here. And my staff actually crawls in here after we're closed at night, waters everything, pulls them out, and again, if there's something wrong with them, they do it. So again, dedication, and to make this look like it does after that flood is pretty awesome. And the mud, they're still finding mud, when they go to clean. But I think for years to come, it'll be
there'll be traces of it.
Traces of the mud.
And it certainly gives credence to the fact or the term labor intensive.
Oh.
And pride. I mean, we talk about pride of our employees, pride of the fair, pride in agriculture, and all of those things to be seen here at the Bloomsburg Fair.
And it's awesome to see, as you say, agriculture. I mean, horticulture, floriculture is a major part of Pennsylvania. Yep. And and you can see that when you walk through here. You'll see that there's pride in the way that things grow in Pennsylvania, which is super.
I certainly want to thank you for highlighting all of the things in your building as a part of the Bloomsburg Fair and agriculture, and certainly thank you for being a part of this legislative report that we're doing to highlight those things that I've just talked about. And I think that probably next year we'll wait with anticipation to what the presentation will be next year and look at the nuances and the differences between this year and next year. And certainly a pleasure working with you on the board.
It sure is. Thank you very much. Me too.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this edition of Legislative Report, live from the Bloomsburg Fair. And we certainly want to thank you for, if you've attended the Bloomsburg Fair, for being a part of it this year. And if you were unable to attend, look forward to it next year. The Bloomsburg Fair always starts the 3rd Saturday after Labor Day. Again, thank you for watching this edition of Legislative Report.